So, back with another recording. We're going to go through this time making a simple platformer in Unity. For those of you who followed the Endless Runner tutorial, you'll see that actually I'm using a very similar art style, same asset pack by a guy called Kenny and Kenny.nl. The platformer pack, very similar art style. I've created a very simple level with some platforms, some ups and downs. And I've also, in the prefab folder, we have some prefab, some blueprints for different platforms, a couple of different enemies, and we have a whole load more sprites included with a lot more variety. You've got your different pickups, you've got different enemies, HUD, all sorts of different bits and pieces, and the whole point is that we gauge and guide our little game guy over here to the endpoint, which is this castle over here. So this is quite a lot longer tutorial. I really recommend doing the Endless Runner tutorial if you haven't already, and we'll guide you through the whole thing. Using physics, using collisions, and using Unity's features, what some code we write to actually get all this working. Okay. So as I say, I've set up a very basic level. You are welcome to add to it. They're just different platforms. So your platforms are all in here, and they're just positioned so that I know that if need be, we can get the character here to the end. Okay? And just the same as on the last one, the character has a capture collider. So if I just make the background invisible for a second, we have a capture collider, which is the thing that's making it physical. We have a rigid body, which is meaning that forces act upon it. So you have forces here that act upon your character, and you have things like your gravity scale and all the rest. So we're going to go through a few things that we split into different videos, and the first video is going to be all about getting that character controller working, using some of the same techniques that we saw last time, but actually changing and improving it. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new script. So we've got the platform character selected. We're going to add to the bottom, add component, and I'm going to call this one player control. New script, player control. Okay. So this time, instead of making it so that our character auto runs, I'm just going to double click the name to get Visual Studio to open. Instead of making it so that the player auto runs, what we're actually going to do, we're going to make it so that the character itself can be controlled using the keyboard, and the player can go left and right and jump when he wants to. Okay? So just before, we're going to have a set of variables at the top. Right. And what we're going to do, we're going to make it public so that they're visible in Unity so we can easily change them. So we have speed and jump height, and then we're going to say rigid body equals get component rigid body 2D, which gets the rigid body 2D attached to this object, just the same as we would in any other various different objects, various different scenes. So we're going to then move on to actually using update and adding in your various different character controls. So before we set the velocity here, okay, instead of setting the velocity now, we're going to be actually modifying it based on whatever the input is. So we're still going to say rigid body velocity, okay, but now we're going to be setting it to a new vector 2, same before, and we're going to use the input class to get the horizontal axis. Now by default this is in Unity A and D and left and right, so A and D from WASD and left and right on the arrow keys, and we're going to times that by speed. Okay. And again we want to say whatever the rigid body is already y velocity, so if you're falling, if you're jumping, this isn't affected. And we say if input dot get button down for jumping again, and again we say if the capture collider that's attached to this object is touching the ground layer, so we have an if statement which checks to see if the capture collider is touching the layer ground mask, so it's nice and straightforward, nice and easy. So if the button's pressed, jump button pressed, and you're touching the ground, just before we're going to add a force in the upward direction. Right, we modify that by jump height, and we're going to make it so that it's an impulse force. So the impulse force is something to give it a short, sharp shove, which is what jumping is. And once again, we're going to say if the position drops below -11, so in other words, if you've fallen off, we're going to say application dot load level 0. So load level is the old way of doing it. You can see here it says Scene Manager is the new way of doing it. Load level still works. Load level 0 loads the first level in the build settings, so it's nice and easy. For something so simple, I'm not sure we really need the Scene Manager, but it's definitely being used. And that really should be kind of all we need to actually start and to get our little guy running. Don't do ID, which we forget to set the speed. So we say 8 for each, just down here. And you can see now he's running and he's jumping, and you can run and jump and run and jump. And you could run and jump and run and jump and run and jump, and you could make it so that this is the whole thing. Here you jump off, with a blind jump, you can get stuck. Okay. And you can do all sorts of things. These have all got platform effectors on them, so you can jump through. So if you're jumping from the bottom, you can jump through. So you could, for instance, put platforms above the head, and you can create quite a intricate level if you wanted to. I've just gone for a really simple level to start off with, just to kind of showcase the basic mechanics. So that's the first part. That's the first part that's just to do with getting your character in, able to be moved, and building upon the level that's already set up. Next video we'll start to set up some obstacles, set up the collection side of things, same as how we did before, where you collect gems, but we'll actually add obstacles and health so that you can avoid them, and we'll start building up our level.